Welcome, faithful, to episode 47 of the Beyond the Sidelines podcast. My name is Finn. Joining me this week, Campbell, Angus, boys.
Hello, boys.
G'day.
How are we?
Hello. I'm all right. I guess I'll go first.
I'm
very good.
We both went. How are you?
Yeah.
And you went. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, may as well.
Mate, you started a new job this week. As the listeners can tell, you know, Finn's wearing a sweater. I'm wearing a hoodie.
First time
Nothing's
Big shot over here.
First time I've actually dressed up to come in for the podcast. Usually I just chuck on a t-shirt.
A lot of the time you do dress up more than Finn and I do.
Gotcha.
You wear like a polo or like something like that. You
I
know, I can
think-
hear the polo.
Think back to the trailer, mate. The
Oh,
trailer,
yeah.
which was now
Yeah.
nearly a year ago, faithful. We're nearing episode 52, of course. We're slowly getting there. Don't jinx it, Campbell. But basically in that, I think I'm wearing shorts at a rugby club. You're wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Gusman's there in chinos, dress shoes. I think you've got a polo on.
Yeah, look,
He's
description.
He's
I like
a Queen
to-
Street cowboy, mate.
Look, I like to look after myself, make myself look good. So there's no point going out if you're not going to dress up and look.
How's that working?
Well, you're not very
for
good
you?
at it then, are you?
Yeah. How's that working?
Ha
for you?
Wow,
Ah.
fair. Okay, I didn't expect that. That's a bit
just
brutal.
Gusman, mate, it's constructive criticism.
Oh, right,
That's what it is.
Or maybe it's just criticism. I mean, there's nothing constructive you said there. You're not like, well, maybe you can wear something different, change it up a little. No, just criticism, straight plain
Look,
criticism.
mate, when you're that far
God.
gone, there's nothing we could say. Anyway,
Okay.
Campbell, mate, how
Wow.
was your week?
Yeah, my
Wow.
week was alright, you know. Work.
Actually, wait, sorry.
Thing.
I am sorry.
Yeah.
That was a
Wow.
joke, mate.
I realised it was just very brutal. God. Like, let's just settle down. This is a sports podcast,
Mate,
all right?
You guys were calling me Two-Faced before the podcast, so let's not get into that.
That is fair.
Campbell,
That is a joke.
Campbell, buddy,
Yeah.
how was your week?
My week was great, mate. It's been chockers, but it's been good, and I'm happy to be recording the podcast. You know, it's a bit of relief during the week. Get to chat with some mates
Yeah, relax.
and Angus.
Yeah.
I was about to say that.
Wow, that's great.
This is just this is reminiscent of the first.
Wait,
Exactly.
Who's your
I
other
was
mate?
gonna
You said
say.
mates and Angus.
And Angus.
Who's your other mate?
The light
The
up
cam-
the computer over
Okay.
there.
The camera-
object.
the cameraman.
The faithful.
The faithful.
Yeah.
We hang out every week.
Okay, yeah,
I
all right.
apologise.
No,
This is reminiscent of
like the first-
vintage bully
This is
Angus
this is
episodes.
vintage Beyond the
The
Sidelines.
first
banter,
3-4
isn't it?
months, this is what the podcast was built on.
Yeah.
This is the very foundations of what BTS is. Anyway, boys, let's
Right.
move on from this as quick as we can to the
But
very
how are you,
premise.
mate? How was your week?
You know what?
Sorry,
No-
one's asking
No one cares, mate.
No one seems to
Let's
care.
move on.
It was good. Anyway, let's talk about the very premise of this episode,
Yeah.
boys. We're talking drafts, of course. Major League Rugby had their first draft
Yes.
last week.
Now, I'm going to hype you up a little bit here. You spoke to the number one pick. You
I
spoke
did.
to the Kyler Murray.
We're not
Connor.
worthy.
Connor-
We're not
oh, sorry,
worthy.
You
Connor
spoke to the
Moneyhan.
number
Yeah, he
one
was,
pick.
mate, he was awesome. Very humble, very emotional, as I think you would be in that situation, gents. But let's face it, the only...
When would we ever
I was about
be
to
in
say,
that
I was about to say,
situation?
unfortunately, the only draft we would ever get drafted
Oh,
in
don't
is, well...
say it. I knew where you were going with that.
No, but
no.
basically, again, it's a new thing. It's the inaugural draft, the maiden draft of Major League Rugby.
One thing I found weird about that, I was looking through where all the draft picks, what university they came from. I saw this one university called Life University.
That's the university for rugby at the moment.
What do they teach there?
Life university.
just how to be a person.
It's just a
like
bunch of
the
hippies.
basics.
Yeah.
How to do your
how to
taxes.
do your taxes, how to cook, how to
Yeah,
sew.
exactly.
This is a home economics university.
That would be the best university
It'd be
ever.
great.
Just teach you everything that you need to know
So-
rather than all random. Who needs to know about Pythagoras and stuff for
When
later
have you ever
life?
learnt that in university?
No, I haven't. But
in journalism.
Well, he did do architecture, so
This is
maybe,
true.
but
Yeah.
maybe that's why he doesn't do it anymore. Have you guys seen that movie Accepted? Jonah Hill's in it.
No.
Basically, it's that exact same thing. It's the premise of it's a university, but it's run by students basically
oh, I
illegally.
have seen that. Yeah.
Illegally.
Yeah, I have.
It's fraud, and basically, it's all about what do you want to study? I want to study, staring, watching the
Yeah.
clouds.
And all the
Go do it.
all the drop kicks,
Fair
drop
play.
kicks come in and they spend tons of money and they realize they're not an actual university.
Oh.
And then they
It's
have to,
don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
Yeah,
There's plenty of
yeah.
drama.
So you
Yeah.
recently moved unis.
I did.
Did you end up going there?
Not to what was it called in the movie? What's the
You're
university?
I saw it so long ago.
We'll
mate.
call it Life University as well.
No.
No, I'm at QT, of course, the
University for the real
superior,
world.
the
Actually,
superior university
no,
to UQ.
No, mate. I have to butt in there. Campbell,
Yeah.
just recently, I think it was last week, UQ up to 46 in the world rankings for universities,
Is
and
it?
is still
Top 50.
the first in Queensland. So your point is null and void.
Although we are most likely going to be moving to QUT
Hey,
soon.
look, don't leak the transfer rumours, mate. Don't leak it.
Rumours are true. It's a spill, mate. No, but
Life University, mate, they
Yes.
are basically, at the moment, the university for college rugby in the States, but let's not get into it too much. They've just got a very prestigious program over there. Head coach Colson Carriaga, very influential on that
household
program.
name, yeah.
Household name. No, it's great to see. But this is the next step that I think MLR, but USA Rugby as a whole needs to take, gents. But basically, it prompts the question. For years, we have absolutely, fell in love with the draft through through the NFL in particular, of course, MLB, NBA,
NHL,
AFL.
AFL. We love it.
We do
love it here. And, it's a very American thing to be doing it. That's why I believe I'm taking a guess here, the MLR is probably one of the first rugby
it's the first
leagues
the first,
to ever do it.
Yeah.
But it went off pretty well.
It did. But with sports down under, gents, in particular, your code, Gusman, the NRL, it's in a situation now where it raises the question, could they use a draft? Since it's draft time, since draft is in the news, or at least my news, because let's face it, you guys aren't exactly cramming over Major League Rugby news. But basically,
I've been seeing a few articles on a certain website, mate. Support the boy. Support the boy.
Keep watching. But basically, gents, or Gusman, not gents.
I'm not a gentleman anymore.
Mate,
Sorry.
could the NRL...
Look at how I'm dressed. I am a gentleman.
Exactly. He's
Gentleman.
Sir.
Yeah.
Could the NRL benefit from a draft? Now, what I'm talking about here is players coming out of high school, probably.
In Australia, yeah.
In Australia. Well, and New Zealand, of course.
Yeah.
Who decide to nominate for the NRL draft would then get designated to a team from, depending on their previous season's order. That's what I'm trying to say.
Invert the finish,
exactly.
the placings from
so the
previous
first
season.
overall pick would, except for trades, of course, which is another possibility, then end up going to the Titans every year. That's funny. Okay, that's straight over people's heads. But Gusman,
I got it. Just
thank you,
wasn't
appreciate it.
That wasn't that funny.
Gusman, mate, draft. Could it happen? Should it happen? Will it happen?
I think it could happen. I don't think it should happen, and I don't think it will happen.
Explain.
So I reckon the idea of a draft, it could work in theory for the NRL. Whether it'll have any impact, I don't see teams like the Gold Coast. You see it with the Suns in the AFL with the amount of draft picks they've had. I don't see the Gold Coast Titans profiting much from a draft either. I don't see a side like the Warriors profiting much from a draft system or any of those sort of weaker sides. I still see the sides like the Melbourne Storm and the Sydney Roosters constantly coming out and winning just based on a few things like coaching, their coaching staff, their culture that they have in that club. I think that's something that you can't get in a draft.
But why, mate? Because what the Gold Coast Titans, if we're using them as an example, what they need, CJ, is talent.
Yep.
Because they've got a very good coach there at the moment. He won the Super League last year, didn't he? They've got Mal Meninga there as the head of culture. He's the Australian coach. But if they have the talent, then they're going to get better. But at the moment, nobody wants to go to the Titans. Last week, was it Matt Duffy? Who's the Cameron McInnes?
Cameron McInnes?
Yeah, the hooker for is it? One of the Dragons players. It was either McInnes or...
He is supposed to be hooker,
Basically, he was told... you can either fight for your spot here and play 20 games a year for the Dragons, or you can go play 20 games a year at the Titans, just because you don't have to fight for a spot there. It's basically a walk-in.
Yeah.
It was either McInnes or Duffy.
That's a problem.
I definitely agree they need more talent there, and I think a draft could get that talent there. But I still don't think the Titans as a club can use that talent to make their team better.
Well, let's step away from the NRL just for a momentary second. CJ, the AFL, they've had this in their system for years.
Yeah.
How has it benefited the league, and do you think that could correspond to other Australian codes?
Yeah, I definitely think it can. I think it provides a huge benefit to the AFL in terms of revenue. Because
the draft in itself, gents, is such an event.
It's a huge event.
The NFL, if we're using that as an example now, that's 3 days of fun. Like, I'll watch that. People attend that. People pay tickets. Yeah. Top dollar to go watch the next generation of players get drafted anyway.
Yeah. And as well as that, it creates revenue for, AFL.com in the off-season. It's an off-season event. So the NFL has become a full year kind of season because, you have all the offside, the off-season stuff. You have the combine, which you could see in the NRL. You have all these free agency things. It all kind of lines up and makes your brand, the NRL in this instance, a whole year competition, essentially. So I think from that point of view, it does help a lot. It also then extends into the season when, Matt Rowell gets 26, 27 possessions or disposals in his second game.
26.
And kicks 2 goals. People are going to pay attention to that. That's more people go, oh, Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson had cracking games on the weekend, the number 1 and number 2 pick. It makes these players who are first-year players, it makes them superstars straight away. Or, there's lots of eyeballs on them straight away, which ultimately enhances the brand. I think we've seen probably more premiers across the AFL since the draft has come in than we have seen probably in the NRL. That's just taking a guess.
You probably are right.
Yeah, because how many different premiers? I know we've spoken about the obvious example is the Roosters and the Storm.
I mean, over the last 15 years, the Roosters and Storm combined have probably won over half.
Yeah.
So,
which you have not seen that in the AFL. You've seen a lot more premierships in that time from different teams.
Yeah.
Well,
you've seen the Bulldogs, you've seen Sydney, you've seen Hawthorn, you've seen
I guess that's
Richmond.
that's not to say that the NRL isn't competitive. I still think any team can make the 8.
No, God,
yeah,
no.
but I don't think making the 8 is that's not competitive for a title.
No, wait, sorry,
which is what you want ultimately. You're not playing to make the 8.
Just going to butt in there. Sorry, mate. The Titans and the Bulldogs, no way in hell they are making the finals.
Maybe not this year, but you look a few years ago and the Bulldogs were a finals team every single year.
Mate, the Titans, since they were founded, have only made the finals once.
Yeah, and that I think a big problem with the Titans is their culture and the kind of coaching stuff they have in there. We've seen how. We're seeing how.
Yeah, mate, they have the Australian coach as their head of culture. How can you get any better?
They only just got Mal Meninga into that club, and they've only just got Justin Holbrook into that club. Previously, they had guys like Neil Henry. They had guys like Justin Cartwright, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know. Who are now assistant coaches and water boys and stuff. Now they've got established coaches, a guy who's won the Super League, Mal Meninga, who's the Australian coach. I think they're definitely turning a corner in their coaching stuff. But look, they need more, and they need to develop a culture like the Storm and the Roosters have if they're gonna compete.
It's almost as if to get those better players, you need to at the end of the season have the availability to get the best talent in some sort of
talent can only get you so far.
It can, mate. But
premiership.
Look, if you don't have
can't
talent,
rely on talent only.
But I think the Titans.
I think that's a pretty obvious state. You can't just rely on talent.
But mate, the Titans are.
If you've got talent, who's going to be the top pick? Is it purely talent, or is it whoever works the hardest? Maybe there's some talent. Maybe it's a mix.
Players can come in and change the culture, or they can contribute towards that. I think we've seen that in the NFL, in particular. Over the last 3 years, we've seen quarterbacks drafted.
Even Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
But I think you need a very special player to change the culture of a club.
That's exactly
that has
how
been
the draft works.
Yeah, but look,
that gives you special players. How are the Gold Coast Titans getting special players now? Free agency. That's it.
But they're getting players who are special because they're 30 and aren't making teams anywhere else.
Which you're not going to win off that.
I mean, I just keep going back. Keep going back to the Gold Coast Titans. I mean, if it's not, the Gold Coast Suns. If it's not working for them, I don't see how it's going to work for the Gold Coast Titans.
Mate, it's working now. They won last weekend.
They won a game. I mean, they've been coming last for the last 7 years.
Look, they beat the West Coast Eagles, who won the premiership 2017.
Yeah.
And they smashed them.
We'll see how the West Coast Eagles go against Brisbane. I don't think the West Coast Eagles are as hot as everyone thinks they are.
They were an 8 team in all predictions. They were a top 8 team.
Yeah.
And they beat them. And they looked good.
Well, I had the Bulldogs in my prediction.
So. And the Bulldogs are looking bloody terrible. So that tells you all you need to know. Yeah. But no, I do think... And I think it would benefit Super Rugby in whatever format that starts. Imagine a Super Rugby where you could draft players from New Zealand as well.
I think it'd be...
That's not going to happen. I think
would be disgusting.
Look, that'll never happen because I think the issue with that is the All Blacks have their own rules about you have to play in New Zealand to play for the All Blacks. So Australia somewhat, they have the ghetto rule about 60 caps, whatever, that type of thing. And obviously South Africa, they're going to leave next year apparently. So
I think they're already gone.
Exactly. So there's an opportunity there, apparently. In fact,
there's talks of trans-Tasman competition next season.
On Friday, apparently there's a discussion between New Zealand and Australian players and stuff, I think, about a trans-Tasman competition. But anyway, we're getting distracted. Basically, I think Australian Super Rugby, they could benefit as well.
From a domestic draft.
Yes. But that's because most of the talent from Queensland and New South Wales in particular who drive, the next generation of rugby talent in this country, that's then going to get dispersed to ACT Vic, and hopefully the
Western
Force, if they can stick around.
Definitely stick around, I think.
If you actually look at the Brumbies, a lot of their talent comes from Queensland.
You know, you got Rajan Pasatoa, who's their number 10.
Darcy Swain, who plays lock, he went to BBC. You got Len Ikitau, he went to BBC.
You've even got Byron Ralston.
Byron Ralston, he's at the Force. You got Isaac Henry, who's now playing at the Brumbies as well. He's part of that squad.
Yeah. And you even see older players who are down in for the Rebels. Doesn't Matt Tamua play for them?
Matt Tamua does play for them, yeah.
He's a Queensland talent.
Is he? Is he Queensland?
Yeah. Played for State High, I believe.
Well, do you think a draft system might save a lot of rugby union talent from going over to other codes?
Yes, and look, yes, 100%. And also, we've seen with the example of Ben Lucas, Isaac Lucas's older brother, we've seen it maybe a little bit with Luke Morahan, of those players who kind of sit in the Reds reserves, don't really get a look in, that are very talented players who can get games elsewhere but are tied down by contracts. You can see them go to, Western Force. You can see them go down to the Rebels, go to ACT, who are the best team. But, you can see them kind of move around at a younger age rather than have already wasted the best years of their career.
Yeah. I'll put this to you like that, like this, mate. Basically, the Reds, they have an abundance of back row talent.
Oh, crazy talent.
Abundance. Like, blokes who could all play for Australia there or thereabouts will certainly hold their own in Super Rugby in the years to come, Gusman.
100%.
Whereas you look at other teams such as, the Rebels, even the Force, who in comparison are going to struggle. What if, Harry Wilson last year, when he wasn't getting a look in, what if the Rebels go, actually, you know what?
We'll take him.
We could get 7 games out of him this season. And the Reds go, okay, we'll loan him to you. Or, alternatively, in this draft system, he then gets drafted by the Rebels.
Out of high school.
Because the Rebels go, we could use him next year. Whereas the Reds are going, we can use him in 2 years.
I mean, there'd have to be a similar situation to the AFL draft where you can match the bid. So if you had that generational talent like a Harry Wilson, or, you had, say, Quade Cooper was the first pick in the draft.
And he developed through their system.
Yeah, and he was in their academy. They'd been using him.
Yeah, okay.
He's a homegrown Queensland player.
Yeah.
They can go.
We have the right,
because that's what happens with the AFL, right? Yeah. If your academy develops a player that you want to hold on to, if it's you Scott Pendlebury's or something like that, more so for the out of Victoria teams, you can hold on to them by matching the bid of other teams. So you can save yourself in that regard, and I think because you don't want to spend 7 years developing a player or 4 years developing a player, and then he goes over to Western Australia. You don't want that to happen.
I will say this as well, though. I think for a draft to work, you arguably need that high school talent to be aired on TV.
100. I would love that. Well, I mean,
because players
it technically already is.
On Double Take, I get it.
YouTube.
Look, players...
Still,
players, fans, they need to be able to, associate with these players and kind of,
build,
watch these players develop as they then go, you know what, I'm desperate for him to come to my team.
Yeah. Oh, Hammerside... Tabai Fidel scored 10 tries in his year 11 season.
I don't think anyone had seen him play before he debuted for the Cowboys. I mean, other than us, really. I remember watching
a lot of BGS.
Yeah, I remember watching him live because he stopped high school in year 11, I think.
Yes, he did. End of year 11, yeah.
Yeah, so he was. I mean, he was talented from the offset. When I saw him playing against BBC at BBC, and he just ripped us to shreds.
He's incredible.
And I was like, oh my god, this kid's going to be amazing.
Yep.
But people don't see that much. They wouldn't have seen it much in the past. They might see it more now with it all being on YouTube and stuff. But
but with sport has gone away from its, I guess, foundations of being you play for your city. It's not necessarily that anymore. It's about who's going to offer me money that I deserve. Yeah. That's what sport is now, especially take the EPL for an example. So basically, if I look to New Zealand and, the whole provincial system to then Super Rugby system was built around the fact that, I'm born in Wellington, I'll play for Wellington, and then I'll play for the Hurricanes. But that's gone out the window. That doesn't matter anymore. No. Teams and leagues want fairness, they want competitiveness, but they also want tribalism. Yeah. And they want players who can lead a team into brighter futures. The Titans and the Bulldogs really at the moment have no direction.
They don't have an identity.
They have no direction. Yeah. There is a South Sydney Rabbitohs player, a kid, he's about 16, who just got signed on a multi-year deal.
$1.7 million.
Because the Titans...
Imagine having 1.7 at 16 years old.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Be a
fun schoolies, I'll tell you what.
I debated buying a kebab today.
You're like... I've got $9 in my bank account. It's $8.90.
I can buy like 300,000 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically,
I don't know. Check that maths.
Yeah,
I don't know how much that is.
Basically, again, the Titans could benefit in a few years of bringing in this generational talent. understandably, the Rabbitohs, they want to go, we want to hang on to him. He came through our systems.
Yeah.
They should be able to
second
bid.
round pick and
But
a
basically,
third round pick,
the
or we'll give you $300K to keep him.
Exactly. But the Titans, unfortunately, are in a situation where if they don't start winning, then they will fold.
Yeah.
The exact same equation that has been thrown towards the Gold Coast Suns. But they've been fortunate enough to be in the situation where, due to the draft, the AFL, Gil McLachlan, can go,
They have a lifeline.
okay, here's a lifeline. This year and next year, you get the number 1 overall pick, regardless of where you place.
Yeah.
I also do think there's a recruitment problem with a lot of these.
But that's because players don't want to go there, mate,
Yeah.
because there's no direction.
No, as in when these kids are younger. So you look at a side like the Broncos, and they cherry pick the best youngsters
Across
from Queensland because they're the Broncos.
Yeah.
And they're an established side. They're the biggest side in Queensland. So kids are going to go to the Broncos. I mean, they're not going to pick the Titans over the Broncos.
Well, they go to the Cowboys too.
But I think there's but
It's
I
okay,
think
we get
there's-
it, mate. You have 2 friends playing for the Cowboys.
You need good early recruitment from these
How
not as
does
good
that
sides
happen,
like
mate?
what do you mean?
It doesn't happen.
That's what the draft is, though.
Because they're not going to go because they're not a successful side. The only way you make a side successful and you make these 16-year-olds want to go to a shit organization is force them to, essentially.
Look, if you
strengthen the game.
If you look at the
That's
NFL,
the only way you do it.
if you look at the NFL, the best
I mean,
players.
you get better recruiters, but
No, that's not how it works.
yeah, you could do that.
No, because I don't care how good your recruiters are. If you've got an offer from the Cowboys or the Broncos and then the Titans, you're not picking the Titans.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends how much money's going in my pocket, but
No, you are not going to the Titans.
yeah, well,
uh,
I don't know.
basically, if you look at the NFL again, the best players are the players who are selected number 1, show the best leadership qualities. And they're the players who are going, yes, Cincinnati haven't been the best in years gone by, but I want to go there because I've never had a losing season in my career so far, and that's not going to, I'm going to have a winning season again next year with Cincinnati. I want to be the
Cincinnati though.
Sorry?
I mean, the
Joe
drafts
Burrow.
haven't really helped Cincinnati. They've only won. Well, they haven't
they
won.
haven't played yet.
playoffs.
They haven't played yet.
I know, but all I'm saying is they've had some pretty good draft. And
No, they
you
haven't.
look at a lot of other NFL sides who've had pretty good draft picks in the past, and they're still crap.
There's a reason that
No,
the
it
NFL
generally is
Oh.
better competitively than other leagues.
There's a reason why the NFL tends to go through periods of teams being dominant and then not being. Whereas you look at the NRL, the Roosters constantly dominant, the Storm constantly dominant, the Broncos will always be thereabouts. I understand that this year they've crapped a bit a wee bit, but they will be back. They will sneak into the 8.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at the NFL and you look at a side like the Patriots. I know they were terrible a while ago, but they have been dominant for at least a decade now.
Yes.
It's pretty much the same thing as the Melbourne Storm. The Melbourne Storm have only been in the competition since '99.
But that's because they draft well, mate. They draft well. They draft
They
smart.
draft well in value picks. They don't.
Yeah, but that's not only
necessarily
it.
draft
That's
well
not. That's not
Exactly.
only it. That's not
No,
the only
they are a
reason why there's
well-run organisation.
exactly, and that's all I'm saying. That's got part to play in it.
Yeah,
it's not. I mean,
100%.
it's not only who you recruit. It's the people you got around them.
I agree.
The culture
Yeah,
in
the
the side
supporting
and the
staff.
coaches.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
but
but-
you still do need to have that baseline level of talent
Yeah,
to help you win.
Yeah, obviously.
You need players who are coming in to play for the jersey, not for themselves. And I think that kind of goes out the window when players go to the Gold Coast. I think they play for their payday.
Yes,
And they pay
100%.
And they pay to get through the week.
100%.
They don't really play. They play for fun, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But they don't play to win, or at least
No.
it doesn't show it. No team goes 364 days without winning, Gusman, and can honestly say, "Yeah, we tried our hardest."
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
because you're professional athletes. If the Titans are really that bad, and there's such a lack of talent in the NRL talent pool, then we need to think about culling teams because it's just not good enough anymore. So can you say honestly, the draft would not help the Bulldogs, the Titans, and the likes going forward?
But I think it would help them. I don't think it would change the fact that they're terrible teams.
Not
I
in the
think
short term.
it would take a lot of good picks over a long time for any of these
Which
sides to possibly
is possible.
get up to the standard
you
of the
can-
Roosters
you
or
can
Melbourne. But I
see-
still don't think talent's the only thing that's going to help
You
them.
can see in the NFL, that teams can turn it around really quickly with a lot of teams that win Super Bowls win on a rookie quarterback contract
Yeah,
Correct.
because it's They're extremely expensive. They're over $100 million to sign. Russell Wilson was on his original rookie contract when he won the Super Bowl. You know, it always happens because you need to get good young players. And you can see teams turn it around with a few good draft picks in a few years. Obviously, it depends on how many rounds there are and stuff like that. But yeah.
Now, I just want to bring this up as well because we could go the opposite direction. I know won't happen, but you could go, let's cut the salary cap entirely. No draft system. Cut the salary cap
I think
and let clubs spend as much as they want.
Sweet.
That's what they do in the Premier League.
Says the Roosters fan.
Well, yeah, of
You
course,
already
I'd
do
love
that,
that.
mate.
Does it
But
anyway?
we wouldn't be the Broncos would probably be the
that's
richest.
a terrible idea,
no,
Gus.
I mean it's exactly what the Premier League do. They let. I mean,
And
they
look how
have,
the
don't.
they don't have a
financial fair
salary.
play.
Yeah, but it's not a salary cap.
It
is.
essentially is. Chelsea had a 1.5 year ban or whatever
Look,
it was because of it.
Yeah.
If you look at the
Which
EPL,
is- yeah.
if you look at the EPL now, mate, there is 6 teams who are going to contest for that title, and really only 2 can win it. Leicester winning a few years ago
This is the
was
biggest
so bizarre
anomaly.
that it's not even a talking
Yeah, but
point
it's
in
the
this
most
situation.
it's the most popular league in the world probably.
Yeah,
It is.
Not
Well,
the most good.
well,
No, it probably
NFL's
is.
probably.
I think
I
but
don't actually know.
I think the
No,
beauty in
EPL
that
is.
is they've got relegation. So
Yeah.
that's an incentive for it's as much a battle for teams like Bournemouth.
Yeah,
It's not so much we want to win the league. It's we want to stay up.
yeah.
You know, and
We
that's
want
where the
that
passion
money.
comes
But
from.
all I'm saying is let the club spend, bring the talent in.
But they don't
and
have the
then
money.
They,
Then if I
Gold Coast Titans do not have the money to compete with the likes of the Sydney Roosters,
Well, then
the
maybe
Brisbane
you
Broncos. That's
introduce
the opposite
if
of
you go
competitive balance.
yeah, but if you go that way, maybe then you do introduce a relegation system where maybe
Yes.
the
100%.
reserve grade sides like the North Sydney Bears or Wentworthville Magpies come
See,
up.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. But you know, that's a way of kind of forming competitive balance and making it interesting for
Yeah.
those wooden spooners. Otherwise, who gives a crap who comes last? Really, at the moment, there's no consequences for coming
Yeah.
last.
Well, I think the Gold
Yeah,
Coast
exactly.
Titans, they can kind of just roll over and go, you know what, this year isn't our year. Let's look to next.
I think they knew that before the season started.
that's the
though,
problem.
really.
And that's the
You
problem.
should
They-
not be able to have that mindset.
That being
Yeah.
said, that does raise the issue of tanking that you do
Yes.
see in the AFL, even though teams don't admit to it. But
I don't think it happens as much in the AFL as it does in the NFL.
no, it used to.
FL.
It used
Yeah.
to. There's every
Yeah.
year there'll be accusations at least. But basically, where teams intentionally lose games, Gusman, so that they get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I think if a draft were to happen, geez, my hair's all over the place. Sticking them at the back. If the draft was to be introduced in Australia in any sport, be that the NRL, Super Rugby, I think there would have to be a lottery system.
Yeah.
Maybe the team.
I
and
don't like the lottery.
I understand,
in
but
the
there's
NBA.
got to be an incentive against teams going, okay, let's lose. 'cause
NBA
that's not
teams
sport.
still tank
Yeah.
though.
They do because they can tank for the lottery.
Yeah.
You know,
But, I
if I
mean-
come bottom 3, I'm in the discussion.
Yeah, I don't like the lottery, to be honest.
And it wouldn't necessarily work in rugby where there are only 5 teams,
Yeah.
and that's including the Force. The
Yeah.
Force aren't there. There's 4 teams. What? Everyone's in the lottery. So
Yeah.
the Reds go undefeated, win the league, and still get the first pick.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, I think the draft, it has to be a talking point. I think it would certainly benefit the competition, but you know, I think it's going to be interesting if we're going back to the MLR to see how that benefits the league in years to come.
Yeah.
Because I think that
Could be a good case study for it.
it will be
Yeah.
because that league I think is really going to shoot and rise. You know, they've just signed Chris Robshaw, San Diego.
Nonu's playing out there
Nonu,
now.
also at San Diego. Renee Ranger, former All Black. You know, there's Ben Foden, former fullback for England. So many big names over there, but I think the draft is only going to aid them
Yeah.
further.
Switching
Gusman.
it up again. What do we think about if the A-League were to have a draft? The MLS has a draft?
Bit of football draft.
Bit of football draft.
I
What
don't-
can we see?
So
What do you reckon?
I'm
You
guessing,
like it?
yeah, it'd all work in the same way. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how
Where the players would come
yeah.
I think they'd have to be Australian. And
Yep.
there would have to be some form of restrictions or quotas that teams have to meet in terms of how many Australian players are registered to your squad.
Yeah, and then what's to go with
Yeah.
internationals? Do you get
from.
maybe
No,
like
only
a,
draft
only
draft within Australia.
Yeah,
Well, I think
These are the young players. So, like, I don't know. How would you do a draft? Would you do it so
well,
high school players and, you know, I guess MPL players can nominate for the draft?
I will say that is an issue where it comes to the NRL. Now, this isn't a dig, but I think if you look at the States, they have it so well set up where
Yeah.
you go to college, then you take that next step.
All the steps
Yeah.
are there.
Whereas in Australian sport, unfortunately,
It's
these
not established yet.
no, but these players aren't required or even encouraged to go seek tertiary education. I know that there are programs implemented around the NRL, but it's still not important.
Could we see that be the case, in the future potentially? Could we see that universities like the University of Queensland, like QUT, like all these other universities play a bigger role? Players have to play there till they're 20 or 2020. Or 21.
It could work in rugby because Prem grade and shoot shield are already so well defined, whereas it would actually work in football too. I think NPL, that's probably
Breeding
the
ground.
best grassroots competition around the country.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then you got the FFA Cup, which is another way for these players to showcase themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't work in league so much they would at Gusman because players would have
them
to
up since they're 15.
Players would almost have to spend a year in the Queensland Cup, Interest Super Cup, and the Canterbury Cup before they can then get drafted, which I actually don't mind.
You could do it the similar way that the AFL does it in that regard. Because AFL, it's the same way for the AFL. Brisbane Lions have players. They drafted Devon Robertson this year. He was in their academy, I believe. And, he signed, they had a few players that were in their academy that they ended up drafting. They played in the NEAFL Grand Final last year.
Yeah.
Despite being 17 or in high school, whatever.
Well, see, so the NRL system, you've got the Intrust and Canterbury Cup, and those guys are over the age of 20. But then you've got like the Jersey Flegg, and I can't remember what the Queensland one is. But
starts with a H.
There
you go. That's my contribution.
Yeah,
anyway, doesn't matter.
But they're pretty much the under 20s. So they replaced. It used to be under 20s competition, and they've replaced that.
But could they bring that back if a draft system was to be introduced? Actually,
maybe
that wouldn't really work because then teams or players are then affiliated with teams ahead of a draft.
That's the same way that it works in the AFL.
I mean, already you've got the Intrust and the Jersey Flegg sides. They're already affiliated with the NRL side. So maybe you just scrap that or something, and then just I don't know, I think they set up their own clubs or something, and then cherry pick from those.
I feel like it's especially important in league to encourage tertiary education. So is there some sort of pathway where you have to complete a 3-year degree?
All sports, mate.
Or you have to complete
I think it's important.
tertiary education. It doesn't have to be university. It can be TAFE for 3 years.
But
you must complete like 3 whatever.
Yeah.
But then you look at these
Cert 4s.
You look at these players who are, shining in the league from a young age. Even Tom Gilbert, who made his debut at 19. He's not exactly shining in. He's just been suspended for 3 weeks. But basically,
ridiculous crusher tackle.
You look at these players who come into the league and they really they show up at a young age at 19, 20.
Yeah.
Payne Haas. Absolutely pain in the ass since he, started in the competition.
This is the 16th time you've used that joke.
Mate.
David Fafita. These guys who come into the league at a young age and they prove their worth.
Yeah.
So is making them wait for 3 years
a detriment
to their quality?
They used to not allow people to play until they were, I think, at least 21.
Tamalolo debuted at 18.
Yeah, no, this was back in the day. They wouldn't allow kids to 18-year-old, 19-year-old. They wouldn't allow them to play.
Imagine how good a debut would be if you're 20.
Yeah.
Like, you for Tamalolo, like, he was incredible at 18. Imagine 2 years later, like, him debuting at how good he was at 20.
Yeah, but you're not being part of that professional setup in 3 years.
It's taking 2 years off your career.
So are you saying that they should complete tertiary education before they're allowed to play in the NRL?
It's something that needs to be suggested or addressed. Yeah, that's right, Campbell, because unfortunately the culture of rugby league is not getting better. Yeah. Every off-season is arguably more entertaining than the season proper for the wrong reasons.
I don't know if tertiary education would fix that because people...
There's still terrible people out there.
But you're growing up a bit, and also, most importantly, you're not in the public spotlight throughout your youthful years. That's right, Campbell. Because if I'm a 20-year-old and I want to go clubbing or something, but then I'm contracted to the Broncos, I'm expected to be the next big thing, things that'll never happen.
You can't go to Birdies on a Thursday night.
That's what I mean.
But pierced up your walls with your running coach, mate.
But you know what I mean? Because at 20, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what you want to do.
You want to get on the VCRs, have some fun, and you can't do that if
you're
a Bronco.
Even when it's the off-season and I decide, you know what?
I want to punch up a bouncer. You can't do it.
Well, don't they do it?
Damn it. Don't they do it anyway.
Doesn't the NFL do it? You have to pass college to...
Yeah. No, you don't.
Don't you?
You have to.
I thought you had to
be in college for 2 years.
I thought you had to get a certain GPA or something to be considered.
Still be eligible.
The NBA,
but you don't have to graduate.
The NBA, you don't have to go to college.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. No,
Like you did for
I mean, the amount of money.
Kobe and LeBron didn't.
No, but then the amount of
money.
Kobe and LeBron didn't.
No, but then it went to a stage where you had to again.
The amount of money
And then
they
they
make,
don't.
it doesn't matter. But when you compare it to Australia, they don't make as much money. They're not going to survive off the
In
kind of money
college.
they make. No,
College players don't make any money.
no, I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about when they make it into the NFL and
That's not what it's about, mate.
They make a
NBA.
lot of
They make a
money.
lot
They make enough money that they don't need an education.
No.
You look at the NRL; they're not making that kind of money. So that they're
So
not
they
going
need-
to.
They do need an education.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean. They do need to learn, I guess, the basics. And
Beyond
a lot of them get
NRL.
into trades and stuff like
Carpentry,
that,
yeah.
which
I think
is
the Morris brothers. They're 2
Yeah,
years into
yeah.
theirs, so that's
Hmm.
cool. But again, boys, I think let's take a step back and let's just have a final review about this thing. Quick draft, yes or no, Campbell?
Big yes for me. I love it.
I think you've kind of changed my mind a little bit. I might go with a yes. I don't think they will introduce it, but I wouldn't mind seeing it. Go ahead. It would be cool
Look,
to
It'd
see.
be fun, hey?
It's
Yeah,
an
it would be
interesting
cool.
concept, boys, and I think it's something that would certainly draw the eyes of fans during the off-season
Yeah.
and hopefully take them away from the off-field stuff that we see in the NRL at the moment. But I think there certainly has to be a bridge between high school and the professional ranks, be that tertiary
Certainly.
education, be that another year of maybe some form of education on this is how to be a professional.
This is how to be a person. This is how to be someone who is a,
I mean,
supporting member of
you
society.
can't teach them all that in just tertiary
No,
education. You
can't,
got to have.
but there's got to be some
Yeah.
sort of outside of footy. It's not just run up
Yeah.
there, mate. You
No.
got 5 tackles, all right?
Again, because I
you got
think
to have something else.
there's a lot of pressure put on these kids at a young age, and they
Straight up.
it's not a bad thing for these players to step away,
Mm-hmm.
do something else while playing footy,
Yeah.
and then getting into it. Because I think even 18 in the AFL, that's a hotly disputed discussion point,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I don't like
I
it.
mean, we spoke about this with Tom Gilbert when we interviewed him. We talked about education because I think at the time he'd previously been studying
Psychology, isn't it?
Yeah, he's
Business?
studying psychology and business. He was studying journalism beforehand because I think he wanted to go into media. But he's studying, I think, psychology and business now. Anyway, he's studying, right? He understands that, and I think if you want to go listen to hear what a NRL player thinks about it, go listen to that episode.
Episode 24, actually, boys. So before we wrap up,
Mm.
let's just have a quick chat about the week that was in sport, because the Premier League is back, boys.
AFL was back, boys.
Come over to that in a second. I was talking about the Premier League because as a Liverpool fan, we are now mere weeks away from seeing Hendo hoist the trophy. 30 years of hurt, 30 years of wait.
Please, can we have another COVID outbreak? Like, seriously.
Can someone
can't.
slip over again? Can someone throw the banana
At
out
least,
like
at
in
least the
Mario
benefit is
Kart?
they're not going to be able to hoist that in the air with any fans present.
Oh,
so-
man.
Oh,
I think
that's
it's
so
quite
sad.
dangerous because the parade, the unofficial parade that will follow in Liverpool
Yeah.
is going to be quite detrimental if COVID is still
And we
live and active.
Scenes on the street of
Yeah.
Liverpool.
Exactly. But unfortunately, on the day of recording, we're recording Thursday night. Mate, your boys
It's not
couldn't do
Oh.
my boys a favour this morning. Man City beat Arsenal 3-0. Actually, did you see the howler in Villa Sheffield? An absolute
No.
refereeing howler where the referees on their watch they get like a vibration when the ball goes over the line.
Yeah.
That didn't go off, and basically the goal. There's a photo of the goalkeeper.
Technology.
I did see this.
He's
actually.
caught the
It's
ball.
fully over.
He's literally
Against the net.
slouching.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
used to
yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of
slouching on
Yeah.
the like a hammock on the inside
Yeah.
of the goalpost, looking very
Reminds
guilty.
me of that Man United Spurs one. Who was the goalkeeper? But literally, I think it was the Man United goalkeeper. Guy before De Gea. Who was he?
before to
bloody hell.
Yeah,
wait.
I
Van der Sar?
can't remember, but
yeah, Van der Sar.
yeah, it might have been. But
Schmeichel.
he literally caught the ball inside the goal. It was
Oh,
like a
it's-
meter
yeah.
over and they didn't call it. They didn't have goal line technology then though.
No.
It was just down to the linesman's shoddy eyes.
That's
but-
absolutely baffling, but it
God.
really sucks because if Arsenal got the 3
I
points,
thought we'd gotten past this.
no,
I
we're
thought
coming back to
we
it
had
because David Luiz had a man of the match performance. He was
David.
simply unplayable.
David.
I said David.
You said
You
David.
said David.
I said David.
No, you did
No,
not.
you didn't, mate.
You said
You,
David.
you can listen back to it. You were
Yeah.
like David.
David Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay.
from Sheffield.
David-
David Lewis.
David's still living off the high of that free kick in Brazil in
That was
2014.
a screamer.
That
Not,
yeah,
not
that's
so
his
much.
career highlight.
Not so much the semi-final that followed, but
No.
basically, if Arsenal won that match, Liverpool played Everton, the Merseyside derby, on Sunday or Monday morning. I think it's Monday morning. And if Liverpool had then won that, they would have won the league at Goodison Park, Gusman.
Which is just
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's
That
just
would've
it's
been
what the
good.
people
Would
want.
have been soon.
That would have been quite interesting. But yeah, no,
Anyway.
Arsenal are terrible.
Yeah.
They are.
What's new? Like we already knew
Just
that.
look to next
mate.
season. They
Yeah.
need a draft.
We need a draft,
mate. Basically, let's get it out of here.
What?
Footy,
Footy.
she's back.
She's back.
She's good.
She's back.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
But actually,
Probably disappointed that footy's back the way his team's
No,
playing.
I was-
Honestly.
They are bloody shocking.
Well, your
So my
captain's
boys-
out, isn't he?
Yeah, they still better than
Your captain's out now, I think.
Bontempelli?
Yeah.
Don't
Someone,
know.
I saw someone was out.
No, he's good.
Eastonwood is out. He was the former captain. I think
Yeah.
Bontempelli played so terribly.
Mm.
He had an absolute. They all had a howl. They did not want to go for the ball. There was not enough guts in the team. They all think they're better than they are.
But we've spoken about this
yeah.
before, mate. Like the Doggies,
Yeah.
they aren't a team who starts well.
No,
And unfortunately, in the shortened season, I think it's going to be rough for you. But last week, when
Please
we
step
recorded,
out.
please.
please.
When we recorded, it was a Wednesday. Now, we talked about the game. Or it was Thursday. It was early on Thursday, wasn't it? We talked about the game that was coming an hour later in Richmond, Collingwood, to open the restart.
I thought it was great. Oh, you're right. Oh,
Was
he's about to
it-
sneeze. He's about to blow.
Was
He's
the
about to
was first draw in 115 years or
blow.
something?
No. There was a drawn grand
No,
final.
but between them, those two
Maybe.
sides.
I don't know. But
That's what I mean.
it
That's
was
what I
one of
heard
the
on
most
the
lowest scoring affairs since like 99 or
36. Like I saw it was greasy conditions, but I was like, seriously, 36 all. That's
something. Yeah. Look, I still thought it was, in terms of drama, I thought it was a really good game. I
mean,
may have
Collingwood
been
did-
shaded.
I think
Yeah,
Collingwood
mate.
scored
Do you want-
1 point in three
Do
quarters.
you need to talk about something? Is it the draw getting
I
to
just
you?
don't like draws,
I
Campbell.
just don't like draws.
I think Collingwood scored like 1 or 2 points in three quarters.
They did. It was
They
it
had
was
a great first quarter and then went
25-1. I think
it was something ridiculous.
Yeah, so it was absolutely fascinating. But it was one of those games which I think appeals to the footy tragic
Yeah.
in all of us in a way.
I remember I was watching it and I was on the edge of my seat at the end, and I think it was Collingwood or was it Richmond that had like a ball that like landed right in front of the player's arms, and he definitely could have. But
Collingwood.
Collingwood. They should have won that game, but like it was really good. The last quarter was fantastic in
Absolutely
my
amazing.
opinion.
That last 3 minutes was edgy.
Richmond should have won. Like they
should have.
had so many shots in front of goal. Like Rewalt not delivering, a lot of players not delivering in front of goal, but I think it's still
Is
for
this
the footy
a,
tragic. It was fantastic.
Is this a grand final preview?
I think so.
I guess I don't know. I
Well,
guess
Geelong
we'll find
looked pretty
out.
good.
Geelong looked fantastic. Gold Coast looked good. Even North Melbourne looked pretty good.
I don't think,
I thought they
I don't-
looked good.
I don't think the Gold Coast and North Melbourne are winning the league, though.
Mate,
but
call it. I'm putting it on the show. North Melbourne are winning the flag this year.
I'll put it to you like this, though, gents. I think the AFL marketing team will hope that the Pies meet the Tigers again in the GF because they only play once this
Yeah.
season. There's
It's
no
a round robin.
There's no rematch. There's no revenge in the regular season. So if they are to meet again, how good would it be if it's in the competition's penultimate match?
Yeah, it would be.
Huge.
Penultimate means second last.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Nope.
Pretty sure it does.
Penultimate means last.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But it was good.
Most
How
important.
good
Most
to
important,
see Jack Higgins.
I was about to say that, mate.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic for him to come back the way he did, shine the way he did, or at least he held his own.
Yeah,
But obviously last year rubbed out for the whole season, I think, with a
with the head injury.
brain injury.
Yeah.
And he had-
Oof.
and
Yeah, he had a brain bleed.
he's still-
Unfortunately, you can still see the scar on his
Yeah.
head, which is really. But no,
Jeez.
we're big fans of him on the show. He's just a bit of a larrikin, which we love. He speaks his mind, and he's an entertaining fella. And it was good to see him back out on the field. Kicked a good snag.
yeah.
Although it was a bit contentious whether it was a mark.
It
or
was
not.
not a mark. It was not. I think the ball somewhat was on the line or over the line,
Yeah,
which means it's,
Hey,
it's out.
you'll take those. No, the whole ball needs to be over.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Ah.
I know
Yeah.
that rule because
Mm.
I'm a boundary
You're a
umpire.
boundary umpire.
mate.
There you go.
It was good to see him. Good to see him get a snag. Love it.
Love it.
Footy's back. Can't be back. How good was Aotearoa?
Mate, Super Rugby Aotearoa was absolutely
so
fantastic.
good, bro.
I think that's rugby how it should be played. I think
love
first
the canes
Fans on the field at the end of the game. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty
amazing.
cool.
I think first and foremost, they're refereeing the breakdown, guys, which is something that referees have, in theory, been doing for decades now, but they're finally doing it in a way which is almost exaggerated.
Mm.
I think the mindset of the referees now is basically if you might be offside, we're considering you are. That makes sense? So players are being forced to kind of take another step back.
Mm.
And what you're seeing from that is a lot more space, a lot more kicking, which for the Rugby Tragic and me, I
like
personally
it.
love.
Yeah.
And I think it was absolutely fantastic. The crowd got amongst it. I hope to God that continues and that crowd didn't just kind of rock up for the novelty of world first.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope it continues. I think it might.
Yeah,
it might.
But I think what we're also going to see in that competition, gents, is a very, very close competition. Now, the first game was between the Highlanders and the Chiefs, and Bryn Gatland. Bryn Gatland is the son of Warren Gatland, who used to coach Wales, the British Irish Lions. He's coaching the Lions next year in South Africa, should that tour go ahead. But yeah, his dad was coaching the other team.
Oh.
And Bryn Gatland kicks the winning drop goal with a minute and a half to go. So
and
take that, Dad.
His dad and goes, you.
And his dad's
surely his dad's a bit happy there.
His dad's
he would not be. He'd be fuming. He'd be like, I didn't give birth to you to be you to do that to me.
You're not having dinner tonight, mate.
You're in the doghouse, son.
So then Warren announced in the post-match presser that Bryn's been put up for adoption. So
oh God, classic.
That's good.
Not actually, Gus.
It would be funny.
The bloke's like 23.
Yeah. I just want to mention my Roosters as well. Coming back. What do you mean?
We didn't even chat about the second 8-year-old game.
Well, do you want to?
Actually, I don't.
Yeah,
I really don't.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Your team lost?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just realised.
Auckland Blues were fantastic, though.
They were very, very good.
They were good.
Tupelotu, actually, sorry, Gus. I will actually mention this. Tupelotu, the Blues lock and captain. He can run at speeds of, I think, 9.1 metres a second, something like that. And he's 200 metres tall.
9.1 metres. How long are his legs?
He's running like a 10 metre.
Yeah, I did the maths the other day. If he maintains that speed for 100 metres, it's about 10.9 seconds. So obviously he can't maintain that, but he's bloody quick. Apparently, he's been the hardest worker in the off-season of any Blues player.
Good on him. Someone who this may have just been me, like, I don't know like if this was just me thinking this, but who's the Blues winger who's a little bit more rotund?
Caleb Clark.
Yes. He's a weird-looking winger.
Very, very weird.
He's a very odd-looking shape.
His legs, he's kind of like almost a bell.
Yeah,
he's got
it's weird.
Curves in all the right places, Campbell.
He does. He's a curvy boy.
Going for that Nicki Minaj sort of build.
No, he's very quick, very young.
Yeah, he's very
But
good.
he's one of those players who I think he'll be an All Black.
Yeah, he will.
It's a matter of if, when, not if. But eventually he'll just burn out in about 8 years.
I mean, speaking of New Zealand, your Warriors got another win.
Okay, he really wants to talk about league, doesn't he?
Well, I just want to mention it before we wrap up. But
we'll mention the Warriors, mate.
It is amazing how they managed to win one week, get thumped the next week, and then thump another side the next week.
It's not amazing. It's standard.
It is actually standard. But, I mean, it's just so strange.
Mate, the Cowboys well outplayed. Of course.
It was
your mate?
Game. Yes, my mate.
Tell us about him.
Yeah, no, he played very well.
Yeah, he did.
That's it.
You watched the highlight?
He subbed in for Valentine Holmes a little bit because Valentine got injured.
So he's starting at fullback this week, I think.
Yeah. He's good. He's filled out a lot since he was at school too. Like he's looking thicker, which is good. He fits the bills, playing well. You know, he wasn't a defensive liability. I mean, you saw a few times where he maybe should have made the tackle, but I think that was more his team.
Well, how much of the game did you watch?
About 4 minutes and 37 seconds. It was a highlights clip.
Yeah, right.
No, but he was on the end of most of the highlights in terms of defensive plays.
Yeah.
And tell us about your Roosters.
Yeah, no, they're doing well. I mean, they've scored 129 points, conceded 12. So that just shows how clinical they are. After all the 0-2 jokes that I was getting sent over Facebook by this guy.
Do you know Owen?
Yeah,
not anymore. He's gone away.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of 0-2 jokes I was getting sent, because, I mean, the Roosters didn't start off very well, but this just shows how good they are.
They've been great, but I think the calibre of opposition that they've played over the last few weeks...
Oh, it's been weak.
Not great.
But, I mean, you can tell, we thumped them. Like, that shows that we're a good side, that we're still able to thump these weaker sides. And a big test will be up against Parramatta Saturday on Fox Sports.
Short turnaround.
Or 5-day turnaround. Because, I forgot to mention,
No.
They
wait a second.
They cancelled or they postponed an NRL game because of coronavirus outbreak in Aiden Tolman's kid's school.
Yeah, because
no, that's fair.
No, his teacher. The kid's teacher got coronavirus, and then they decided to cancel the Roosters game on the Sunday, move it to the Monday, and then bring the other game forward. So everyone was like,
I think it's silly.
I think that's a good reason to postpone the game.
Yeah, they had to test him and everything. It was in the
you can't,
protocols.
Because then what happens? Then the whole season's out of whack.
Well, you don't want to risk Aiden Tolman infecting other people.
Now it's in jeopardy, I think, because now he might not be showing symptoms, but he still might have it. And what happens now?
Asymptomatic. But he tested negative.
If you don't show symptoms, but you may have it, and if he gets tested anyway,
he got tested negative, so he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always the risk that a player might get it and then bring it to his club, and then the NRL season to be pretty much over. Cause
I mean, the worst thing for me is that you have these coaches that are in the bubble. You know, you have your Wayne Bennettts and stuff like that are in the the dangerous age range, and they're going into a place where
exactly
you may get a
could die.
But but the
A-League, mate,
they've announced
July
it's
16th
back, which is good. And I think I saw
About
somewhere
time.
that they're playing a game every day.
Really
Yes.
fascinating.
It's not that hard. It's football. It's not as demanding on the body.
Not the players aren't going to play one, but there will be. It's scheduled.
Oh,
like the Big
there's
Bash.
gonna be,
Okay.
Yeah, so there's going to be a game
I was
every
thinking,
day.
okay, yeah.
No, you would
I
not
think
be able
that's
to
what
play
I
a
think
game
that's what
Every day,
single
90 minutes, back it
I
up.
reckon I could.
Carnival out at
I
bloody
reckon-
Albany Creek, mate.
I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago that because
Could
they
get
have
this.
like 32 games left.
In the A-League?
Yeah,
No,
or
they
5
do not.
rounds. Let's
They
say
don't
5
have that
rounds. Or
much.
They have
something.
3 rounds left, except for Sydney, who have 2 more games to play.
But
Yeah, 'cause they got
but I said they
fired
could
out.
knock it out. I said they could knock it out, and the finals in like a month.
Yeah.
And
they
And
will.
I think
obviously that's what they're doing.
That's
Yeah.
what they're trying to do. But
Yeah.
again, it's absolutely fascinating. Football is back. Sport is back. Normality is resuming, gents, which is the main thing.
You see, for the listeners and the viewers at home, for the listeners, do you see these 3 people? For the listeners, do you hear these 3 people?
What are you doing?
These are 3 happy guys. These
Yeah.
are 3 happy guys.
Love that
Sport
monologue.
is back.
No.
Thank you, mate. I'm a drama student.
It's
so-
awesome, boys. Anyway, Gusman, where can they find us on social media?
Ooh, you can find us at
You're
me
like,
on the,
ooh,
on
I
the
forgot
spot
where it is.
at _ beyond the sidelines _ for Instagram. I haven't even been on it for a while, but
I know you haven't, mate.
Facebook at Beyond the Sidelines, YouTube Beyond the Sidelines. Just check us out, bro.
What we are doing a lot more of. Rugby Luke. What we are.
It's Rugby League.
Rugby League.
What we are doing a lot more faithful on our Facebook page in particular is sharing a lot of content. So you'll be able to basically just come to us for all your sporting news.
We got it.
That's basically
got
been
it.
the premise of our show since day one, but we haven't actually lived up to it
No.
until 5 weeks before the 1 year mark. So
Yeah.
anyway,
But engage with us.
Yeah.
You know, send us a message. What do you want to hear? Do you want to hear some more rugby league news?
I'm
Do you wanna hear
lo-
some AFL news.
I'm
What are we
loving some of
talking?
the I'm loving some of the comments on some of the things we're sharing as well. There's some quality comments out there.
There's
I think
some
someone
interesting
said
ones.
they'd rather watch their lawn grow than
No,
watch AFL or
I-
something.
I can't watch it. I've got to
paint a wall and then watch it dry. They're not wrong.
Paint a wall and watch it.
It's good chat.
Obviously
good
a
chat.
rugby league fan. I think.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably
Obviously.
related to you, mate.
Ah, funny.
One of the faithful. Anyway, I'm going to go over 3
I know
lozenge.
one of them was, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Can we address that you cough in every single episode, or you start talking, you go, oh yeah, so...
And then he's gotta clear his-
You gotta go, sorry, pardon me.
It's happened twice.
No, it is not.
Every episode.
Every episode.
You need a bottle of water or something just to.
I tried. What I tried to do.
God.
I'm just
Constructive criticism, mate.
just feels like criticism.
I
This
mean,
isn't fair.
That's bringing it
This
back.
isn't fair.
That's what we call a
Full circle.
callback.
I think I'm probably worse off camera the amount of loogies I cough up.
Oh, God. Anyway, on that note.
Jeez.